Hello and welcome to the podcast. We are the Cosmic Commentators and we're here to take a look at all aspects of spirituality, metaphysics and religion.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm joined by the wonderful Alex, so please join us as we delve deep between the vast subject of life beyond the veil.
Hey Rachel!
Hello Alex, it's been a while.
It's been 100 years.
It has, hasn't it? I mean, obviously, I haven't had a chance to have a proper good catch up with you for a while.
Yeah,
so this feels, it does, life, well, we were chatting earlier, weren't we? Then life feels quite stagnant at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, and uneventful.
Yes, but then lots of world events going on as well.
Lots of geopolitical strange events.
So yeah, it feels like a very strange time at this.
It does.
Currently.
It does. Sure does. But anyway, what should we discuss today?
I think given kind of the, as you said, the world landscape at the moment and things being uncovered, I think aliens and whether they're our friends or our foe and what that means, and looking into UFOs, or should I say UAPs.
The politically correct too.
Yes, we have to be politically correct.
Of course, it's 2025.
Always, always. So, yeah, I think it's about kind of really thinking about what they are, where they come from. Are they something that's always been around and we've just become more aware of them? You know, what is it? Are they from another planet? You know, I think there's lots going on there, lots to discuss, and definitely something we can't cover in one episode.
No.
But I think it's a good starting point.
It is. I mean, there's so many theories on what these things are, and everyone's got their own opinion of them.
Absolutely.
From angels to demons to physical beings to corporeal beings to non-physical entities, from interdimensional travelers. Yeah. But I think there's a few data points that can probably point us in it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think as well, the more when you start reading into it, and as you said, when we kind of agreed that this would be an interesting topic, you know, you start looking back, and as early as, you know, I was listening to Billy Carson, as early as the Sumerian tablets, they talked about flying objects. And so it's been there, hasn't it? What that necessarily meant, we don't necessarily know, and I know we're going to talk about Titaria at some stage and what was, and whether it existed and whether it was a civilization that they wiped from our history books because obviously we weren't meant to know. But yeah, so I think it's kind of always been there. Maybe there was kind of the discussion back, as you said, back in Sumeria. I know Alexander the Great talked about flying objects as well, didn't he? Yeah. And sky people. So maybe they've always been part of our existence, but it's kind of, again, it's been hidden from us until more recently when people feel maybe more confident speaking out.
I think there is a soft disclosure of some kind that is going on because your government, I mean, even in Congress, they were talking about it only last year.
Yes, they were.
About these things. So that makes me a little bit leery. Because the government are talking about it, and then you've got your Ancient Aliens program that's been talking about these things for a long, long time.
Yes.
Again, for me, it's pushing a soft disclosure. Now, whether that... I've become very sceptical.
I hear you.
In the last 5 years, and I think anything that's been pushed on you is not for our good. So I'm not quite sure what to think.
Yeah, and I think it's been around for a long time, and I think, let me think, I'm not sure of the year. I think it was 1999. We had the Roper poll, didn't we? And that looked at kind of how many people had these sightings, and they talked about something like 20 million people had said they had these sightings.
That's only the people that have admitted it, because of the demographic of people that daren't say anything.
And I think as they kind of looked into it, they're saying probably about, I think it's about 10% is actually true sightings. The rest can be explained by other phenomenon that has occurred. So, you know, I suppose kind of that the start of that century, kind of we've started to kind of be more exploratory, I suppose, is a way
and more
of
open to it, haven't we? You know, I mean, anybody that reported these things maybe in the 80s would be automatically ridiculed.
Possibly.
And, you know, but like since the Roswell incident, whatever that was, and then obviously sci-fi, you know, sci-fi kind of pushed the narrative. So it does, again, it seems like a soft disclosure. I mean, I've seen stuff myself, which I'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But these things are definitely around.
Yes. But I suppose the key thing, are they positive, negative, a mixture of all? I mean, I don't know. There's question marks for me.
There's absolutely.
I don't think I have a definitive line that I draw around these particular entities.
They do seem to have the ability to shapeshift.
Massively, yeah.
And there does seem to be an element of radiation with them.
Yes.
That's two things.
Yes.
And then if you look at Joseph Jordan that used to be in MUFON,
yes,
there's the element of people having abductions where there's 400 cases where people that have been abducted that have got a relationship with Jesus Christ say that invoking his name ends the experience and they're back on a bed.
Yes.
Like it's been some kind of dream state.
Absolutely.
And not a physical out of body experience maybe, or, so I don't think that these are nuts and bolts crafts from, the way that the people say that they move and things like that. I mean, I've got a lady called Jessie Rosenvelt. I mean, she had an experience in October 1954 in Staffordshire, which is only,
20 miles
20
away.
miles away from here, not far at all. And I'll just give you a brief introduction of her story, because I found this very interesting. So she was living on a farmyard in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. She heard this. She said it sounded like a cauldron of hot water being put over a fire, like a shh.
Oh wow! Okay.
Sound. And then she goes out, and above a farmhouse is this huge craft.
Yeah.
At a 45-degree angle, and she said that it was like a Mexican hat.
Oh yeah, and I think a lot of people describe that. I think there's a consensus of what they look like.
What they look like.
Yeah.
But this was 1954, so you've got to keep in mind this is what you're told they will look like from the films like The War of the Worlds and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And she said there was a dome.
Okay.
And there were two beings in there. She said, and they were absolutely beautiful beings.
Yeah.
They had slightly higher foreheads than human beings, but she said they were beautiful. They had glowing hair and these blue jumpsuits on. And she said they looked at her with great empathy. Now, for me, when I've looked at Nordic beings and Pleiadians, they seem to fit.
I was just going to say
the explanation of a Pleiadian.
Yes. And I was, in fact, as you were describing that, that's where I went to. The Palladiums are very much, aren't they, that kind of structure, higher foreheads. They generally have kind of very
blondish,
long flowing.
It's light, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is almost a white, translucency white hair.
They said very, like glowing almost.
Yeah, but the Venetians have a similar structure. So Venetians as well have a similar type appearance, and they're almost more beautiful than the Palladians. And from what, I mean, again, it's what I've read, very much the Palladians are supporters of human beings, and they're here to guide and protect. And they say there's a lot of people that have Palladian bloodlines that do kind of come into a human form in order to support and kind of help humanity.
Yeah. The only thing for me with this is it could be a deception.
Of course.
Because she said that they appeared with what seemed to be a fishbowl on their head. Now, if you look at anything from... Now, I absolutely believe this woman. I mean, she died in 2017 and she maintains this story to this day.
Yeah.
But if you look at, like I say, War of the Worlds, any sci-fi from the 50s, they've got these...
They do those Martian helmets.
Martian helmets.
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
these things appear to her in this way.
That's interesting.
Now, so that says to me that they are shape-shifting and appearing as something that would look like something which she would expect to see from what she's seen on TV. Now, that is a bit of a red flag for me.
Yes, I agree.
Because if you are what you are, you will appear. If you were going to be completely honest, you would be showing up as you are. Now, also, with these experiences, in 99% of the cases, there has either been an occult background or some kind of, a new age background. So there's almost like an opening door to this sort of thing. Now, this lady, Jessie Rosenberg, she had been to a seance not long before this event happened.
Okay.
And she was told by a psychic that Jessie was highly gifted as a psychic herself.
Okay, interesting.
And then after the experience, she became quite ill. and her blood count was very low, and the doctors couldn't understand how she was still alive. And he said it was similar to radiation poisoning. So she'd got a close proximity to this thing that seemed very... I mean, she was petrified at the time, but she said it went up and it circled and it went off. Her children saw it as well, but then she was quite ill after, and she did get herself right over time. But there does seem to be a radiation element to it. So,
and then you wonder if it has that, and surely they'll know the impact that radiation will have on the planet.
Yeah. But if these are spiritual beings, how does radiation come into it? I don't understand.
No.
I don't understand. So it's almost like the part matter and part spirit almost.
Yeah.
And again, I mean,
yeah.
With the new findings of the Shroud of Turin, they're saying that image of Jesus on that cloth was created by something like a billion light bulbs going off at once, which is almost like an ultraviolet radiation event. So I don't know. There's key points here that can kind of connect. As I say, I don't think that the nuts and bolts craft.
Yeah.
But they're not completely just like an apparition either, because an apparition wouldn't give you radiation.
No, a physical
poisoning.
Reaction. Absolutely, yeah. No, completely.
But then there's the occult thing before,
There is. And I was listening to John Mack. He's a Harvard professor, but psychiatrist. Really interesting. I think it kind of, we're talking about maybe 70s, he started this work. So he, non-believer, kind of then started to become interested, because all people were kind of talking out, and like you said, as people started to talk, they're going, oh, crazy, they made it up, some sort of mental illness. And he started to interview these people, and what he found was people from all over. There were no connection. It wasn't like a collective narrative they'd come to develop and collate together. And he said they all had very, very similar type phenomenon that had happened to them. And what he had said was that following the experience, that they became, he described it as abusive, absolutely abusive, and that a lot of them had PTSD following it.
Any implants?
He didn't know, but I'm not sure. I don't know whether that's more of a more recent occurrence. I mean, he didn't. I mean, there's loads of interviews with him. Honestly, it would take me weeks to go through them all. But just kind of from what I've watched so far, and he said a lot of them suffered from PTSD. And he said when he went in, he was a complete skeptic, and he thought, oh, making it up. But he said, I've no science to prove it. I mean, clearly, how could you? But what he said is their experience for him was scientific enough, and that none of them wanted to have this experience, because after that they became very isolated, very withdrawn, and they almost delved deeper into wanting to connect with this person. So he felt, I mean, when I was listening to him, it felt like, Stockholm syndrome, where you kind of become attached to your
abuser,
captive, and that they became almost evangelistic to this entity that they had connected with. So
enslaved by it, maybe.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, as you said, shape-shifting, whether they take on an element of that person's matter physically, because we know a lot of the time they can't exist without a human host, can they? A lot of the time. And I'm wondering whether these experiences, whether they were left with elements of it, and they just kind of became more entrapped by it, or more, overwhelmed or encapsulated by this particular entity. I'm going to call it an entity because
we don't know what it is.
We don't know.
And then you have people like Dolores Cannon on the complete opposite end of the spectrum that says they're just completely positive and they're all wonderful, wonderful beings. And anyone that has had a sort of negative experience with them, that was just them sort of recalibrating them. So you've got two complete opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Sure.
Two people that are sort of quite highly sort of venerated almost in the UFO sort of metaphysical.
And while there's a lot of stuff that resonates with me with Dolores Cannon, that for me, I can't believe all UFOs or UAPs or whatever they're called now. I can't believe that they're all positive. That just doesn't.
No.
It doesn't sit with me.
No, when you think that someone as sort of, because what Dolores Cannon did was she took people back to the somnambulistic level, didn't she, in trance, and that the subconscious was talking, not
Absolutely.
not the conscious mind. So I don't know, because you'd think that if there was any negativity there, Dolores would have been able to uncover it, unless she was some kind of gatekeeper, which we don't know, do we?
No, we don't.
The husband was in the military.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
He did die not long after she started doing this work. So was he some kind of sacrifice? Was it this part? I don't know. How do we know?
We don't know. And we do know the military have been studying this for decades.
They know.
Yes, and they've witnessed this. They've seen these flying objects.
Tic-tacs, whatever.
And from what I've read about, they were saying kind of the maneuvers is outside of anything that could be humanly developed.
They're outside of physics, aren't they? They're beyond physics. Completely. And a lot of the time they talk about There's this thing with water as well. A lot of the time they disappear or they appear around a body of water. Yeah.
And it's about, that's interesting. And are we looking up when we should be looking beneath?
Well, I mean, I did see something myself when I was working on the MSY windsurf, and I'll just tell the viewers about this, because this was 2005 and we were off the coast of Greece, and it was around about 3 o'clock in the morning. So note the time, because that was the time when the veil
is at its
thinnest.
Yeah.
Which again is apparently the inversion of the time that Christ died, which was 3 p.m. So
yes,
the other side of that would be 3 a.m. and it was about 3 a.m. around about 3 in the morning, and I think there was a full moon or something similar. I think it was pretty much, yes, it was a full moon, and me and the singer from the other band were just enjoying the moonlight on the water, and through the water we saw this. I've never seen anything like this talked about by anybody else. This huge glowing, it was like a Zeppelin shape coming through the water just below the surface. And it was glowing an amber colour, not a bright amber colour, but it was glowing. And we were, the ship's engines were on, so we were ploughing through the ocean. This thing caught up to us, came over, parallel with us at the side of the boat, and there was a feeling that we were being observed.
Right, interesting.
And it sat there for a few seconds and then just shot down at great speed to the depths of the ocean.
Yeah.
And me and Joyce were just jumping on the back of the boat going, what was that?
Sure.
Because we've never seen it.
Yeah.
It's nothing like you would see in the sky or, And anyway, we spoke to the captain the next day. He was terribly British, and he's like, "It was a dolphin. It was just a dolphin." It's like a
glowing dolphin,
a buzz-sized glowing dolphin with no tail that was just moving through the water at great speed. Because we were on full power, because the ship would go from one country to the next. So you'd wake up the next day. So you'd power through the ocean at night, and then we'd sail in the day. But I've got no explanation for that. I've never seen anything online or anything similar to that, but we saw it, and it did feel like once it came to the side of the ship and it observed us for a few seconds, it was like, okay, we're done, off we go.
Yeah.
Really, really odd.
Sure.
Really odd.
And you don't, because obviously But with that level of technology, as you said, it probably only needed seconds to scan you or to...
Whatever it was doing.
Yeah, whatever, and then gone.
But it was strange that it was just the two of us on the back of the boat, and not a crowd of us, just two of us, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, everyone's asleep.
But if you think about it, most of the time, it's not groups of people that they appear to. Predominantly, it is maybe 1 or 2 people, and it's about wonder why that is.
Well, now what is very interesting is Joyce was a mate. She was from Arkansas. Now she was like quite a devout Christian.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I was more into the occult. I've done Ouija board. I've done all nature of things that would be considered occult. But it appeared to both of us.
Yeah.
Strangely,
And what was her take on it?
Well, she wasn't questioning it as much because she was just like, oh, there's something in the water, where I was like, I need to know what that was. Yeah. I need to know what it was because, you know, my interest in the occult is because of strange things that have happened to me in my life.
Sure.
And I want to know what they are.
Of course.
And not long after that, I was medically disembarked because I was a singer and I got nodules on my vocal cords. So we didn't really keep in touch. And I did try and email her, but she never replied to me sort of after because... for whatever reason, but we never got a chance to discuss that, but we both saw it, and I was just absolutely fascinated by what it was, but she didn't seem that that excited by it or that sort of interested. So I don't know whether that's just how she felt about it, but I was fascinated by this thing that happened 20 years ago now.
Sure.
20 years.
And I do think there's probably been loads of those sightings that people have just, as you said, kind of just kind of gone, maybe I didn't see it, maybe maybe I had one too many and it was just something that I observed, but then, can't make sense of it. And also when we can't explain it, we generally don't talk about it, do we?
And you probably compartmentalize it in your mind, won't you? But like for me, I've got a very inquisitive mind and I wanted to know what that was, and no one's seen anything like that since that I can think of, other than, as you say, have you seen those spheres that sort of just disappear into the water?
Yes,
that's a different thing altogether. A different thing altogether. But this was, like I say, a zeppelin shape, and it was amber coloured, glowing amber in the water.
Yeah, weird. Definitely not a dolphin.
Definitely not a dolphin. And there's nothing worse than someone just shutting you down going, oh, it was a dolphin.
Yeah.
You peasant, you singer.
Yes.
It was just like, no, it was something way different than a dolphin. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah. But I suppose for me, as you said, there wasn't a sense of fear or darkness.
No, not at all.
And that for me is, I don't think we can label all of them
as demons
as one thing as one thing or the other.
No, but saying that, Joyce wasn't frightened either. But like for me, I'm not frightened by any of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even if it, unless it jumped out and had teeth and horns or something,
sure,
I wouldn't. I'm not frightened by any of this sort of stuff, which is why I'm. We do this.
Absolutely.
It doesn't frighten me.
Yeah.
So, but it didn't feel, you can normally feel if something's dark or negative, can't you? And I suppose the unknown side of it felt a bit like, what the hell is that? Of course. But I didn't feel any sort of impending doom.
Sure. And I think you probably
wouldn't you?
If there was that level of darkness around it, I absolutely would.
But it felt like an observation. It felt like an observation. And that was it.
But I do feel that we are being observed.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel there's layers to our multiverse, isn't there?
Mm.
And while obviously physically this is what we see right now, I feel that there's different levels, and that perhaps they coexist but come into our realm at various stages.
Absolutely.
For various reasons, maybe.
And what I've learned about sort of ghosts from people that learn from demonology and things like that, these things project their image to you, so you might see it, but the person next to you might not.
Absolutely.
Which is, very common. I mean, if you look at a Marian apparition that happened in Fatima, 500 people saw it, other people saw nothing.
Absolutely.
But they're all in the same place at the same time. So these things seem to project their image to you.
Yeah. Absolutely,
somehow. Which would explain why some people see things and some people don't. Is it the VMAT2 gene that we talked about before?
Well, that's where I was kind of going to. Yeah. And whether, obviously, if you're more susceptible to accepting
or open
or acknowledging that there's something bigger than us, which I'm on that. I'm like, come on, people. Yeah. There's more to the universe than us. So I think perhaps they would know that, wouldn't they? It's a bit like when you go into a room, you kind of get a vibe and energy for somebody, and you think, actually, you know what? I could probably have a conversation with you. Yeah? And you wouldn't think, oh my God, she's crazy. So I think they would get a similar energy, and you kind of know who's more open and willing to tolerate or acknowledge or, an engagement. because I think everything is frequency and energy.
It is, yeah. I think it definitely is, and I think there's got to be an element of consent to it somewhere along the line. I'm sure, but it's quite strange with, like I say, the abductees that have got this PTSD that, but then develop, like you say, a sort of Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
their abductors and the.
But also, I question, and maybe this is what it is. And as I said, I haven't got a set angle on this, but I'm wondering if they are those entities that are perhaps darker. Do they pick people that are more susceptible or are more withdrawn anyway? So, if somebody is kind of maybe a little bit lost in their way, haven't found their purpose, aren't on, or aren't connected necessarily to a higher power. Yeah. Is it easier to infiltrate them than it would be who's quite spiritually open and can kind of understand or has a relationship with Source?
Possibly, because, I mean, you hear about people that, will say, make a pact with a demon because they feel isolated. So the isolation will make them sort of lean towards these things because they're almost looking for a friend somehow. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it could be, I think there could be an element of that to it too. Or, people that spend a lot of time with themselves, you hear about it when people create egregores. Yes. Yes. A bunch of thought forms that manifest into something. Or, I've heard stories of people that have had poltergeist activity and the people investigating have said, it's you. Yes. You're doing this. It's something that you are manifesting with your psyche or your subconsciousness because of, I don't know, beliefs or something like that.
And that fits for me because I think equally we can, particularly if you're more psychically open, I suppose, because I think we all have psychic gifts. Yeah. We all have the ability if we choose to. Yeah. And again, I think when you open it up, for me, one of the biggest lessons was managing that and also protecting myself, because when you open it up, it's a floodgate, isn't it? Anything can come in. It's not as if you go, oh, I'm opening it up, but to you and you and you. You don't understand that initially, do you? Until you start to delve a little bit more. Yeah. until these dark entities are like sieving. Yeah, like a sieve, as when I went to see The Amazing Yvonne. She's like, Rachel, like a sieve. They're coming through. But it's through knowledge, it's through speaking to other people, it's understanding, oh my God, I need to, while you can open the door. And I do see it. When I'm kind of thinking, right, I'm going to spend some time, I'm going to meditate, I'm kind of opening myself up. I'm very specific now. Yeah. I'm not going, oh, come on, who's out there? Come on in. It is very much, and I pray and I kind of am very clear who I'm willing to engage with from another realm. Yeah, yeah. What I don't do now is, which again, it's a lesson. It's something you learn. Lesson. I was opening. We're coming through from all night. I'm like, who are you? What? No, go. And that's where I was fatigued and I was drained of energy and very quickly. Yeah. I could see how they could embody themselves within me.
Oh, yeah. These things are everywhere. These things.
Oh, absolutely, everywhere. Absolutely. And I was listening to Pastor Alan Nolan, and he talks a lot about, obviously, we're physical, aren't we? We're in a meat suit. We are a physical being. And he said, if we ever got a chance to, glance into the spiritual realm, he said it'd be
rampacked.
Yeah. So he said we're coexisting, we're just not seeing it. Yeah. And that's kind of how, when he told, I'm like, that's how I see it. It
all does seem to be here. Yeah. It's all here. It's not there. It's all actually here. Yes. And it's around you all the time. I mean, people, again, that have near-death experiences will say the heaven realm is here and also the hell realm is here.
Absolutely.
So it's all on this, in this realm, but on a different dimension.
Yeah. And when they initially talked about UFOs, coming from other planets as well, I mean, when I was listening, I can't remember, I think it was Gary Bates, but I might have that wrong. He was like, it's not physically possible for them to come from another planet. It's like 2 million light years away. I mean, he's like, no, Just not. So for me, it is a multiverse. That's how I view it, with various levels.
Yeah.
And we know the various levels, the physical, the astral. Yeah. Again, for me, they all coexist. And it's about, if you are able to migrate between those realms, then you kind of become more aware. And I think for me, having experienced some positive and negative entities and energies, I think there's a balance of both yin and yang. I do think so.
There's something touching my head.
Okay, see, they're just positively or negatively.
I don't know. I can just feel my hair moving. It's like,
but I think,
be gone.
Yes, or stay if you're nice. You come join us, positive entities. Please come join us if you do want to do that. But again, it's that ability to tap in and knowing. And again, I know we bang on about it all the time. It's all about discernment. Oh,
God, you've really got to... this is what I've learned in this last 8 months, that you really have to refine your discernment, because anything can show... I mean, if something's bad, it's not going to come up with gnarly teeth, is it? And be like, rah! Absolutely. It's going to show up as your friend. I mean, I was listening to this guy again who made a pact with these demons. There were 3 of them, and he said that I preferred them to people because they were so... kind and friendly to me until they're not.
Of course. But that's how they entrap you.
This is the progressive entrapment, isn't it? You know, again, when people use Ouija boards, this thing will be showing you, telling you things that you need to know and being very helpful. And it's called the progressive entrapment. It draws you in.
Of course.
Until you've kind of made that bond with it, and then it'll turn. Yeah. So, again, this is where your discernment needs to come in, because... I don't feel like I want to connect to anything at the moment.
No, I'm a bit like that.
I want to just shut everything down and go, just zip myself up and be like, just me, because I don't know what to trust, and anything that I've asked to help me in the past hasn't.
No, I'm exactly where you are right now. And I'm not opening myself up too much either. Obviously, some comes through. I'm very much more clairsentient, so it's feelings, knowings. I've never had occasionally I've had some visuals, but very, very, very rare. And they've always been very personal to me, as in showing up as my great-grandma, stuff like that. But that was in times of crisis, trauma, grief, all of that. That's when she shows up for me, which is comforting, actually. Yeah. But other than that, I generally don't see it. It's a kind of a very much a deep sense of knowing. Yeah. And I've lost my track. I don't know where I'm going now.
Well, I think for me, I just don't trust any of it anymore.
Oh, yes.
And nothing's shown me any positive results. Nothing's none of it's, like I say, there's been no proof of anything sort of either way, really. You know what I mean? Yeah. But from what I'm learning from other people and other things, I'm like, I don't know if I actually want to agree to any of this at the moment. I don't know why I'm feeling like that, but that's where I'm at the moment. So
no, as I said, that's where I was going. I do feel exactly the same. I don't want to open myself up. I like you, and we had the conversation just before we started. Just knowing who to trust now feels really
in the physical, physical
massively.
It's people around you as well.
Absolutely, and I do feel quite a hermit at the moment. I know I'm obviously going out and I'm working and I'm doing that's fine, but energetically, I would say I am in hermit mode, because it's that lack of trust of people, because everyone seems to have an ulterior motive.
It does feel like something is coming to a head, doesn't it, almost? Because everyone is, like you say, out for themselves, aren't they? In survival mode, almost.
I would agree. I think the vast majority are in root chakra. Vast majority.
Fear.
Yes.
But I mean, especially in this country, look what's been done to us. We're being absolutely, hammered in this country with sort of negative energies and stuff. Yeah.
And again, I've been listening to... They're ramping up chemtrails at the moment, and so every aspect of our lives are being
we're just being attacked, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. And for me, because of all of that, I'm just going. I'm done now. I need to protect myself.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I would have felt quite guilty and saying, oh, maybe I should tap in and see what's... I'm like, nope, I'm just not there. And nor do I want to be right now.
No, I don't.
Until I feel ready and I feel there's something worth tapping into.
That's it, exactly.
Isn't it?
That is it, exactly, because it just feels like you're being drained.
Yeah.
It feels like you're being drained or deceived almost. I don't know. I don't know. I can't explain it, but...
No, and I think that's where I am at. So I know we've kind of gone over there somewhere. But for me, getting back to aliens, I don't necessarily like the word alien. I don't know why.
No.
But I would say I think there are entities, which can be a friend or a foe. I do feel we coexist with them in a multiverse with various dimensions and realms, and I do feel they have the ability to shapeshift when they choose to. And getting back to that entrapment you talked about, with everything in just when people groom each other, there is that period, it is a grooming process.
Isn't it?
So it's no different.
Spiritual grooming.
It is spiritual grooming, isn't it? And I think perhaps they target those who are more vulnerable.
Of course, which they would do, wouldn't they?
Of course. Why wouldn't
It's all
you?
Manipulation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all, more manipulating. So.
I suppose the thing is, it's about, or maybe it's all individual, what do they need to get from that?
Is it louche?
Possibly. Yeah.
Could it be this louche that, the people talk about that,
Yes.
the farm that we apparently could be potentially living on?
Yeah. Which kind of is seeming more real day by day. But also, is it these individuals that, because they start speaking out, that it increases maybe the willingness for others to engage in that type of activity or be willing to accept? Because again, for me, it's subconscious. It's a subconscious decision to allow people in. To engage with these people. So I do wonder whether that there is an element of that as well. So I don't want to say increased popularity, but that kind of if I infiltrate this person, if I get them to start to kind of almost speak
for me,
will I potentially draw others in? And that's how cults happen, don't they?
Well, these things could be out there to and capture people more, and the ruin of souls, whatever, take people down the wrong path. I mean, nothing's getting any better, is it? For all the we're moving into the 5D and all that sort of stuff, and we're just about to go into the golden age. It's like, okay, well, don't feel like it at the moment, and maybe this is part of it. Maybe there's part of this. We need to go through this very dark period. They say the darkest hour is just before the dawn. Yeah. But is that
we're definitely 11th hour now.
Well, we're definitely there, aren't we?
I think so.
So maybe this is part of the process, but I feel very much the same with you. I just want to zip myself up and go, okay, not dealing with any of you right now.
I'm ready to come out when the dawn hits.
Yeah. I'm closing my curtains.
Absolutely.
I'm lighting my candle.
Yes.
And I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. But I also have this really strong urge to ground myself. Yeah. So I'm spending a lot of time outside. Mm-hmm. And again, bare feet, just I feel like I need to connect with Mother Earth. Yeah. I feel like she's the
anchor.
She is I really do feel the anchor, but I feel like the divine feminine is growing right at the moment. And we talked earlier about, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene again, the coming of the rose and Hecate and Hathor. I feel like the women are starting, the divine feminine are really starting to show up. Yeah.
Yeah, to heal.
Absolutely. And we need them for that healing process. We need that softness, don't we?
Yeah.
We need that
guidance,
calmness and nurture. Yeah, absolutely. That motherly love.
Yeah.
But again, there's a massive organisations and the churches and religions won't want that, will they?
No.
They want to stick with the male dominated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting times.
It is very interesting times.
And kind of seeing what the next year brings.
There's a lot of pointers, and with regarding to UFOs and stuff. I mean, if anybody's watched anything to do with Chris Bledsoe, he says that he's had experiences with this lady figure,
yes,
a beautiful lady that's very loving, and there's been healing with with the dog that got shot, I think it was. But apparently next Easter 2026 is going to be the sort of unveiling of something. Probably come and go like everything. Like everything else, but with relation to UAPs or what you want to call these extraterrestrials, apparently there's going to be something that he knows that he can't disclose yet. The lady has told him, very similar to, like Mother Mary marrying apparitions, where people are told information but they can't say it until a specific date.
Yeah.
Or they can give the information a few days before it happens.
Sure. Yeah. And also getting back to the UFOs, and we have heard that the New World Order could potentially
infiltrate it.
Absolutely, in order to increase this
control.
The control for one religion, one world, control.
Yeah.
And I suppose frightening people to think that actually these UFOs or whatever, UAPs, they're going to take over the planet. Yeah. Unless we kind of hand our control and give them this one world order. So it's about, will they start utilising that as a fear tactic, another PSYOP, which I don't believe you. I mean, obviously they can co-create anything, can't they? Because with AI, they could potentially make it seem like a UFO attack. So again, discernment all the way. They're doing lots of
rituals as well, aren't they? They're doing lots of rituals, and I've found out. Did you know that NASA was sort of founded by Jack Parsons?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He had ties with Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
And a woman that's been inside the Vatican has said that when rockets are launched, there's Latin written on them, and a rocket launch is actually a ritual.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you saw the Blue Origin with Katy Perry and all them that went up to space for 11 minutes. I generally
try and avoid stuff like that.
But, again, it just felt like a ritual, and she got the monarch butterfly that she was showing and stuff. And I'm like, this is just another PSYOP.
Oh, absolutely.
Just another massive PSYOP. And, like them people that went up to the space station for 8 days in August.
Yeah, and they didn't come back
they didn't come back till Elon Musk brought them down. But they happened to have Christmas hats just ready for Christmas.
Yeah, because you know what I mean? It's generally what you bring on your... Well, I'm packing my suitcase. What do I need to bring?
8 days, in August. So we'll be back by the end of August. But I'm just going to take my Christmas hat just in case we get stuck up there over Christmas.
Because that would be shocking.
That would be shocking. And then
they had enough food and everything. They could survive. Incredible.
Incredible. The woman came down and she didn't have grey hair anymore. She had grey hair up on the space station. She didn't have grey hair. But our saviour, Elon Musk, brought her back down to earth.
He's amazing. He's just amazing.
He's just obviously God, isn't he?
Then getting back to the moon, which again that could be a whole thing in itself. There's been I think it was a Harvard study I was reading there, and they say that they feel that there's in the base of the moon that perhaps that's where some of these aliens, ETs are based, are living.
There is some footage of some strange things that are just on the surface of the moon that's coming about.
And maybe we should do a deep dive into the moon, because I've heard so much, to and fro about, whether we should connect with the moon, but then there's all the negativity with the lunar and lunatic and how people are affected and how it obviously affects the tides, and we're 80% water and how. So I think. Again, I'm out there with the moon. I to and fro. I absolutely. But then when I met with Yvonne, who's this incredible, how would we describe Yvonne? Medium, psychic,
healer.
She's saying throughout my lifetimes, the moon has always been my guide, and as always, I've always been massively connected to it, which I always struggle to sleep and to feel calm around the moon, and I don't know. I think I need to look more into exactly what the moon is.
I mean, I heard some scientist guy. This is from years ago. I think it was. I couldn't tell you the year, but it was some black and white footage of this guy saying the moon is plasma, and he was soon shut up. So if someone's shutting you up from saying something, there's got to be some truth to it. You know that it's plasma and it's not what it appears to be. And I don't for a second believe that we landed on it. Not for,
never.
For one
no chance.
Second. That was the biggest pile of horse shit that
I agree.
came out of the TV. Yeah. It's a Stanley Kubrick production from my point of view.
I would agree. 100%.
Yeah, so
100%. Yeah.
Is it all part of the deception again?
Yeah. And also the timing. Why at that time?
Did you ever see Russia's landing? That was just hilarious. Honestly, if you get
a chance
to watch Russia's landing, it's like a B movie. It's so funny. It's so low budget. Yeah. It's so low budget, but this is all the mysteries of this realm that we live in, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I do agree with you. I do think there's going to be more and more around UAPs and more sightings and
there was
more
that surge on about December, wasn't there? That surge. I mean, I saw this map of all the sightings. I mean, I know some of them, this was definitely the government putting things up there to try and confuse people, but the map of America was just like completely red with all these different sightings of stuff, and it's like, there was that thing at Manchester Airport. Can you remember that sphere?
Yes.
That blue sphere again that landed in December.
Yeah.
So, but then it's kind of gone quiet again, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it's kind of gone quiet.
But I do think that's generally how it comes and goes, doesn't it? And because again, that's soft introduction, isn't it? Soft disclosure.
I don't know about you, but I'm so over all of it. I am over all of it. I'm like, just bring it on, whatever it is, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Can we just go? Can we just do it and just whatever happens next? Because it's just like excruciating, isn't it? This sort of
and I think as well because. We know there's stuff coming. You're like...
you can feel it coming.
Come on.
Just do it.
Whatever it is.
Just do it. Just get there. Get on with it. You know what I mean? Because this is boring.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So I don't know if you're feeling as bored with everything as we are.
Yes. Absolutely. We started with stagnant, and I think that's been the theme throughout. It is
2025 has just been...
Yeah.
Like you say, hamster wheel, hasn't it? A hamster wheel of sort of nothing.
And a bit like you, because 2025, year 9, astrologically, which is closing off the...
Ending of cycles.
Absolutely, closing off the old, beginning the new. And I'm like, I know we're not halfway through the year, so I'm just hoping that after we're halfway through, maybe the new stuff starts to emerge.
Let's hope. I mean, it just feels like it's just a constant dangling of the carrot. It's coming, something's coming, and then nothing seems to happen, but who knows? I'm not the most patient person, to be fair. I wasn't born with the patience that I would like. And I get very bored very easily, so bring it on.
Yes, absolutely. So we started the question. They started this episode with aliens, friend or foe?
Friend or foe.
Where are you at?
Agnostic, but I must say, I've become very, what's the word? I don't trust things anymore like I used to. So I'm more inclined to think that they're not such positive beings, and possibly here to. I don't know. Agnostic stroke on the skeptical side for me at the moment. But next week I might feel completely different.
Yeah.
That's where I am. What about you?
I'm slightly more positive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I am. I do feel there's more to come, and I do feel with that there's going to be more positivity. There's going to be more, I suppose I'm going to say, a Palladian type emphasis around supporting humanity. I think that's where I'm going. Not just the Palladians, obviously there are others, but I do feel the more they become exposed, the more we'll start to question things, and hopefully we'll start to rip up all the crap that we've been told about them before. But that's not to say I think all is positive. I don't believe that. I do feel there is a darkness with some of them.
Yeah.
But that's down to personal experience, who you are, where you're at, your ability to discern, your vulnerability, how quickly they can attach, So, yeah, I think if you're in a good place, you're connected, you're grounded, you know who you are, because I think it's all about that.
And you're discerning.
Absolutely. I think you're more likely to experience any interactions or any sight. I think they're going to be more positively, focused.
Influenced,
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I guess time will tell, won't it? But I do feel like these next 12 months are going to be quite instrumental in figuring it out almost, you know, sort of which side of the war we're on.
Yeah, no, completely.
You know?
But I do think they've always been here.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've always coexisted.
Yeah. I mean, there's a guy called Maurice Bigelow, I think he is. He's a guy that translates the Bible, and I think he wrote the Chariots of the Gods, which talks about, he says it's biblical, all this, this stuff's in the Bible. You know,
it is, absolutely.
The 3 men followed a star.
Absolutely.
And then you've got, I can't remember the other guy that UFO experience said that he's seen a document that's this thick. I'll flash his name up. I can't think of his name, but he said he's seen a document that's this thick that said that the reason for religion is that we are containers.
Yep.
And the reason for religion is to kind of keep us on the straight path. And there are 3 beings, including Jesus Christ, that were actually alien.
Okay. And I have heard that, more and more. There's a real question around Jesus at the moment.
But there was 2 others as well, maybe Krishna and Buddha, I don't know, but the same, they were all sort of, they were to sort of help humanity stay on the straight and narrow, because we are containers, and they don't want these souls damaged, whatever they are. Yeah. So that's the reason for these things.
But interesting, in all the abductions as well, calling out the name of Jesus stops it.
Yeah, so why would that be? You know, I mean, you know, I believe in Jesus. You know, there's absolute power in the name of Jesus, but that seems to, not Krishna, not Buddha, not anything.
No.
And also, Joseph Jordan says it just stops happening again if, you know, when you call out the name of Jesus, these things don't bother you again. So that's a real, you know, that's a real data point for me. That, you know. And, you know, with UFOs and things like abductions, there's no repeatable anything other than the Jesus.
Absolutely.
The Jesus thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But it's higher power, maybe they don't.
I mean, again, Mother Mary's appeared in an apparition back in the 1970s to this woman in New York, saying that these things are demonic, and you know, this is what she has said. In an apparition to somebody, you know, which hasn't been, you know, the Vatican has completely dismissed it and said, you know, it's a personal revelation. We don't agree with it, but, you know, I don't believe the Vatican are going to tell you the truth all the time or be completely...
maybe ever. They have a lot to lose.
They have a lot to lose, you know, so...
But again, I think, as you said, everything is in plain sight. We just need to know where to look.
We do, definitely.
Okay.
So there you go.
With that, shall we
wrap it up?
I think we'll wrap it up. Absolutely.
We'll wrap it up. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I know we went off on a few different tangents, but that's just me and Rachel. We'll always do this. We will always do this. And
we start at A and we forget to go to B, C, and land at Z.
So, I mean, you know, keep your discernment up, people, because, as I say, I've been fooled many times. You know, I've let things into my life that I shouldn't. So, no, I think the main takeaway from this is use your discernment. Absolutely. And if you're not sure, don't engage with any of these entities, because we don't know what they are. That's my takeaway. So.
Absolutely. And again, discernment, but use your power. Nothing can infiltrate you if you say no. So it is really important that you protect yourself. However you do that, people ground, others pray, meditate, whatever it is, but you have control. Nothing can take your discernment. No one can come into your life, into your energy, into your auric field without permission. So please utilize that. Okay. And we, as I said, we hope you enjoyed this. We have gone off on various tangents, but again, this topic is so vast. We're just scraping the surface, and who knows, with how things are coming and with the future predictions, I'm sure we'll probably rejoin this at some later stage.
So there you have it, guys. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you feel the urge, and we'll see you again for the next one. God bless and ciao for now.
Take care. Bye.